So there's all these videos about jujitsu, and when I first started practicing jujitsu, I was really concerned about what is the experience like for a black woman who wants to learn this great martial arts and this great self-defense for women. And the sport is really dominated with white men or people who are not black women. And I want to talk about my experience, maybe in some parts. I'll try to put it all in this video because my camera has a lot of pictures of my cat on it. Basically, I don't have that much space. So I'll try to put it all in this video, but I don't know how long it'll last. Basically, my experience at my first school was horrible. And there were some telltale signs of like a covert narc. And the covert narc ran the place. It was a competition school. I really recommend a Gracie school. That's the one I'm going to try next. Because the people at the comp schools are really arrogant. And I think oftentimes they are started by people who have no business in leadership. So from the start, I didn't really want to trust anyone there because I don't trust people easily anyways. But this guy, he had all this encouragement for me to be there and compliments for me, that he was proud of me trying this sport. And he owned the place. At first, I didn't know he owned the place. He owned it with a few other owners, his friends, or dare I say it, his flying monkeys, because they really support who he is. And he gave me some discounts so I could get started, and also he really would tease my twin brother, who's the only reason why I started going there. And he made it seem like he was doing it because of like sibling rivalry and being on my side. But then he also started to tease me, like talking about my glasses or talking about people with glasses are nerds. And a lot of times he would like just give like a low blow. I had friends who did this in the past, but it was surprising coming from him because he was the leader who I found out owned this place. He led the classes that I was going to. He was great at teaching, so I liked going to his classes. And he also would just talk about being positive, and so I thought that he was trying to do that, and I thought he was a good example of that. And I made excuses for when he wasn't, like on the occasions that he lost his patience with me, and like screamed at me for not doing a technique right or for wanting to listen about how competitions go, even though I didn't sign up for competitions. Or one time he told me in a very snide voice that I wouldn't be able to go to a competition that I really wanted to go to in another state with the team because I had to work. Now, if I'm saying that I want to go, then I'm going to make the time off from work and I'm going to save the money to go and everything that I need to do. But he was just acting high and mighty at that instance because he was the business owner who supposedly had so much money and freedom to do whatever he wanted. And there was this woman there who was never accepting of me, never welcoming. And I went to her class, and he told me to go to it because it was an all-women's class, but he told me maybe I probably wouldn't like it as much as his. And I went there, and she totally wasn't welcoming, and she kept talking about a man by his same name, and I had to make the connection that she was talking about him, like, years later. She only had 2 other women at her class who brought their kids. She screamed at the kids. The women seemed terrified of her, but too scared to say anything. and I never went back to the class, but I took note that she was talking about him, the owner, and like cussing him out and saying she couldn't stand him. And she would always come to his classes that I also attended, and she would act jealous of me and just act like she had a mean spirit towards me while he was so encouraging and giving me all these compliments. And it turns out that she was his girlfriend, and he wouldn't allow her to tell anyone that, and he also didn't tell anyone that. But he was being very friendly to me and also sometimes flirty. So I at least thought of him as a friend, and I wanted to know him more outside of the business because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I asked him for coffee, and he said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great and all that." And but he never got back to me on it. And you know, I try to give people chances or whatever, just stay actually positive. So I kept asking him, a few times, like 3 times, when could we do this? Because I really wanted to learn more about his story and how to be an entrepreneur. And he had talked about some positive topics, so I wanted to talk more about them with him. And he told me that I could go to breakfast with him one day. And then she also came to class, though she didn't come to class as much as me and like was rarely there, but she came to class that day. So I have reason to believe that he invited her. And he invited everyone else from the class, just people who were, like his flying monkey friends who supported him. And, I hadn't invited those people. I had only invited him, but at the last minute, at the end of class, he invited everyone, then asked me, was it okay with me, and, like, put me on the spot. And the whole time at this coffee gathering, everyone talked over me, and he didn't really say anything to me. And the lady sat there, like, giving me the evil eye. And then I found out that him and her had planned to attend one of the other guys who came to this coffee meetup wedding. And so the leader of and the owner of the Jiu-Jitsu Academy had been invited, and then he invited the other woman. Mind you, he was always super friendly to me, flirty with me in every class for months. So I thought at least he was a good friend, so I could invite him to coffee and learn more about him and the business and his story. And I didn't know that the woman was his girlfriend. And I still didn't know. Like, I didn't know why he would invite her or what the hell was going on. So I was trying to figure it all out. And anyways, so months went by. Like, it had to be like the next year after that coffee meetup that summer in February. And I had took some time off because I hurt my knee. When I came back, he mentioned when I came back, everyone there was like asking me like, oh, you're back. Where have you been? And they like treated me with some disrespect or some kind of disdain since I had been gone. Like, they didn't welcome me back. And it felt like, there was an elephant in the room because I came back and, like, people had been talking about me while I was gone and they didn't want me back and everything. Mind you, all I ever tried to be there was, like, the person I am, a positive, quiet, introverted black woman, and they didn't like me. I think part of that is just because I'm a black woman, and they also didn't like my political leanings because I was campaigning for Democrats in my state, and some of them saw this on social media. Um, him, the leader, the owner, and the guy who invited him to the wedding, who I would come to find out would always post a lot of offensive things to black people and over politics and issues like that involving black people. So I had blocked him off of Facebook because he wasn't really a friend, that guy who was getting married. And I knew his cousin, and I didn't block his cousin, and I think he got angry at me because, his cousin was a positive person, but he wasn't, so I blocked him. Anyways, they were saying things like, oh, do you need a ride? Is your car still raggedy? Because within the first year that I had been there, I had a car that broke down and I got a new one. And the new one was also used, but it was still working for me when I came back after hurting my knee. But then, that day, this guy, he also waited till after class where I was going to ask him about my training because he had told me I could soon become a blue belt, and I was just going to ask him about some of the things I needed to do that. And but I was waiting to ask him, like waiting for other people to stop talking to him, and to my surprise, the girlfriend was there. And this is how I really found out that she was his girlfriend, even though he never acted like it. Matter of fact, he was always rude to her in front of me. And I did admire him a lot, first as like a businessman and a person. And, maybe a little bit, I thought, oh, he's cute too, this friendship could lead to something. But I had to pay more attention to just who he actually was showing me that he was on the sly, I feel like he made me out to be a joke by being so charming to me and encouraging me. And then, after months of that, like over a year of that, when I finally tried to be his friend and learn more about him, he turned it into a joke. So it had been, months after we went to the coffee meetup with everybody else that he invited, that kind of made me feel like it was a setup. And no one talked to me and all this. They had all their inside jokes and everything directed to me. And so that all happened. And then I went to another breakfast with them for his birthday, where I learned that apparently he was going to a lot of breakfasts at that place with his girlfriend that he never told me was his girlfriend. I just knew that she worked for him, and she claimed she hated him and that he was usually rude to her, so it was really strange. But anyways, me, I'm trying to be positive. I don't know what's going on. Nobody told me. So I'm just thinking, she's some kind of a mean girl. And after all of that summer, it was in February of the next year, after those 2 coffee meetups, that I went back to his class. Everyone was unwelcoming, and I was trying to wait to talk to him, and he starts talking about shower sex with this woman who's usually really rude to him and says she hates him. And then, in like a mocking voice, he asked her if she wanted to go and get coffee with him. So I knew he was picking at me for asking that about a year before to him. And it was a very embarrassing thing. And it was a very humiliating thing, which I guess he wanted it to be. So I left for about another month, for about another year, 10 months. And when I came back, I finally had the courage to ask him, why did he do that morning that I was waiting to talk to him? And everybody seemed unwelcoming to me. Because I had went to his class in another city about a week before that. And he had asked me if I liked him. And I thought about it, and I just told him yes because I didn't know the context. But yes, I liked him as a person, as a friend. And then a week later in that February, after I was trying to get back into the classes, he picked at me at the location where I had first begun going to his classes. So 10 months later, I went back after not being there for about a year because my knee was still needing